set it up and turn it around. We might have come from somewhere else, but this is where we found ourselves. Welcome to the local show. People you work with, people you know.
Welcome to another edition of the local show here on GrassRoots Community Network. I'm Erik Skarvan, your host. Thanks for joining us, guys, as we work our way into September. Easy for me to say. And hope you're enjoying late summer. And thanks for joining us, our YouTube and Facebook audience. Really happy to have a return guest, a longtime friend of mine. He is the executive director of the Roaring Fork Mountain Bike Association, otherwise known as RFMBA. Welcome back, Mike Pritchard.
Erik, thanks so much for having me on once again.
My pleasure, buddy. We got to kind of keep this as a regular, annual tradition.
Let's do this thing. There's always so much more to talk about. These shows are a little bit too short for my taste.
You want us to go to the 1 hour special like we did with John Oates?
Yeah, go in deep, go in deep.
We could easily do that.
If you're talking trails, talking mountain biking,
exactly.
I'll keep you busy.
Well, both of us, it's like such a deep passion. We could sit here and just talk about it all day long, but we're going to be a little more efficient. I did want to start naturally with a little bit of the history of mountain biking. I was just in Crested Butte last weekend, and you can't help, if you're a longtime mountain biker, especially to think about the history and tradition, some of the sports origins in Crested Butte, other parts in Marin County with guys like Gary Fisher and Joe Breeze. And what are your thoughts kind of just on some of the history?
Well, first of all, don't forget that, the whole purpose of the guys getting together, coming from Marin, going to CB, getting together with those pioneers, what were they really trying to do? They were trying to get to Aspen to have a drink or two.
Right. I mean, good.
So they're coming over Pearl Pass, right?
Exactly.
The whole point is to get up high in the mountains and then somehow get over to Aspen. And then we'll worry about getting home afterwards.
Right.
But I think
it's like the first really epic ride, when you think about
totally
it.
An epic
From point to point, Crested Butte to Aspen, bunch of hippies in the 70s.
Well, I think they were pausing in the middle, having a bonfire and so on. So they didn't, it wasn't a race. It was not a race.
Right.
The neat thing for me, given my age, I'm 44 now, and this sport is about that old. Yeah. So it's not like we're looking at, even hundreds of years of history. There's just, 100 and a few decades of two-wheeled history.
Right.
If you do look way back when, obviously the earliest cyclists, they weren't on pavement. The pavement barely existed. Early Tour de France, that was a lot of dirt roads as well.
Right.
But the modern era of mountain biking, really going into the high mountains, figuring out the brakes that'll get you down the mountain, figuring out the gears that'll allow you to pedal as much as possible up the mountains. It really is a story of technology in some ways, but it's really just a story of enjoying time in the mountains to the max and using that technology to do that, I suppose.
It's like taking that joy of bike riding, like how far can we take just the pure joy of it and just keep having fun no matter what your age is. And a guy like Gary Fisher had been racing road bikes, but he's still kind of looking for joy. Like, how can I even have more fun? So just like fundamentally, like how can we just have more fun riding bikes? And by the way, can we go ride like these dirt roads and maybe do it safely? Although that didn't happen for a while. I don't know if it still is. I mean, there's always going to be inherent, risks, which is also part of the.
That's totally part of it. Challenge and risk kind of go hand in hand. You want to overcome that risk and overcome the challenge and do it safely and get home just fine. But all aspects of the sport are challenging you, whether it's, riding another mile further than you did last time or clearing a little technical section or just mastering the simple business of fixing a flat tire. There's just sort of endless challenges presented to you in mountain biking.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about that sometimes, especially after a couple crashes earlier this year, It's like, I don't want crashing to be a part of the sport, but the challenge of staying upright all the time, it's part of the deal, right? That focus that's required. And I think that's a little bit about that mental mind state you were talking about. And so to transition a little bit to 2020, although there's a lot more to be said about the history of the sport, we got
a little video clip we're going to show too.
In 2020, I think that we're only seeing how much more important trails are becoming to a lot of people, right? time away from the office, time away from home even, just time out in nature most importantly.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of us can go for very long walks, but you can see that much more on a bike. And so I think you can have that much more fun, arguably.
There's a real fun movie called Clunkers with a K. And I just want to show a quick trailer. So this is for mountain bikers who maybe want to get a little more into the history of mountain biking. Here's a little trailer on Clunkers, and we'll be right back.
Since its humble beginnings, mountain biking has become a global phenomenon. To millions of cyclists, these bikes are more than a form of recreation. They're a way of life. The question of who actually invented the mountain bike is steeped in myth and legend, but certain facts are undeniable. It is widely accepted that the epicenter of the mountain bike movement was in Northern California's Marin County. Here in the 1970s, a few dozen hardcore cyclists took to the hills in a collaborative effort that by the end of the decade would become the modern mountain bike. Their shared passion and obsessive tinkering led to the birth of a multi-billion-dollar industry, a form of recreation for the masses, and an Olympic sport. Some of these athletes were serious road racers with dreams of Olympic glory.
So lots of fun in the history of mountain biking. The hippies, what they didn't get to in the trailer was the hippies from Marin, like you had talked about, going to see the hippies from Crested Butte. Kind of a challenge.
Big road trip. They did a big road trip.
Exactly.
You know?
And they actually showed up, and the Crested Butte guys were like, oh, wow, they're here. Like, we're doing this thing. They all partied like rock stars, and then they went about their Pearl Pass.
Guess what the first thing was? Comparing bikes, right?
Well,
it's like,
that's true. Geeking out on the bikes.
How are you doing it? Oh, look at these fancy. You took these motorcycle calipers and put them onto your bicycle. That's a great idea.
Right, and then just
and so
getting
that back
ideas.
and forth innovation.
Exactly.
That's where it started. Yeah.
Perfect way to wrap the first segment. We're going to take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. I do want to thank our summer underwriters for making our series happen June, July, August, September, including Aspen Square, CMC Aspen, Klug Properties, Live Aspen Art, White River Overland, Picken County Landfill, and last but not least, Sundog Athletics. Go to a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. We got Mike Pritchard talking about local mountain biking and so much more, so don't go away. We're back here on the local show. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. Again, a longtime friend, Mike Pritchard, talking a little bit about the history of mountain biking. Very rich, lots of characters, still is to this day. It's a very rich sport with a lot of characters, a lot of personalities, a lot of dynamic, and a lot of innovation, too.
There's a lot of ways to enjoy bikes, is you know, one of the ways to think about it. So it draws all types of characters. And so while you and I might be big mountain bikers, I know you've been a big road biker over the years too. There's just so many ways to explore. And then even within mountain biking now, not that we're totally divided into tribes, but you might want to ride the park all day. You might want to ride your bike all day in the mountains.
Or try a fat
bike. Up and down and up and down. Or you might be only into fat biking in the winter for some reason.
Right.
Or you might be only into racing and only want those results and not really care about the fun rides.
Or you might be a guy like Mike Tierney who just unicycles everywhere.
Yeah,
he's up some of the biggest climbs in the world.
Interesting exception, right? He's also a mountain biker. I remember we were building a little reroute on the Sunnyside Trail, as far as you can get from the pavement on Sunnyside. And here's this guy on a unicycle. Pauses, builds trail with us for an hour before he continues on his bike.
He just like stopped during his ride and did a little trail work and then resumes.
Excellent.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's just it's a rich sport, and we have one of the most prolific and inclusive and welcoming and fun extensive trail systems in the country here in the Roaring Fork Valley. So much so, we've just been awarded a new kind of gold medal.
That's right.
Gold Ride Center status.
That's right. I can tell you a little bit about that. And let's just say that in addition to all those other type of cyclists, you've got the mountain bikers who are just absolutely into trails, whether it's designing them or building them, taking care of them. There are a lot of passionate people who just want to take care of the trails and make sure that people can get out there and enjoy some sweet single track. So because a lot of those people, we're now in this position where we are the 7th gold level ride center in the world.
Wow.
There's 5 in the US. Wow. There are 5 in the US at this point. But what is a ride center? And what's IMBA? For those who don't know, when we throw around this acronym IMBA, that's some people would say the Intergalactic Mountain Bicycling Association. It is
unless there's better riding in Mars. I mean, it could be intergalactic.
It is the international, but the joke was 35 plus years ago when it formed, might as well be intergalactic. And so IMBA has always been at the forefront of mountain biking advocacy. And one of the ways they have tried to spur people on and communities on is by these designations. So we've heard of the IMBA Epic Rides, and more recently we've had these IMBA Ride Centers. And a ride center simply is a collection of trails, a big trail system that offers multiple days of riding, and ideally it's going to offer all things to all comers. So in order to score all the points that we scored to get to the gold level, not only do we have all the green trails and the blue trails and black trails in the right proportions, but we also have the classic trails, the modern flow trails, the gravity trails, the bike parks spread throughout, between here and Newcastle at this point. Okay. But the Ride Center is also looking at it from that destination visitor point of view.
Right.
So the way I put it is, I might like to ride my bike for 2 to 6 hours a day, but what else is there to do when I'm visiting Snowmass?
The full package.
And the answer is there's a lot more to do, especially if you bring your family, right?
Right.
We live in a kind of a destination heaven of sorts. And that's what mountain bikers want when they're traveling. You want to go for a great half-day ride, but then you want awesome tacos and margaritas and Chinese food and sushi and so on and so on. You want all the choices. And if you've got bad luck, you don't want to have to get flown to the hospital. You want to be able to walk in the front door if all goes well. So meaning you need all the amenities nearby, all the different types of lodging. Right. And so complicated point system. And how do we achieve it? Certainly RFMBA, our organization, was very involved because we pushed land managers to build new trails, approve new trails at least. And so we have this great trail system of continuous single track, but we also have all of the chamber partners who see the value here. So one of the questions that I get about this ride center is, okay, great, what's next? And there's a lot of jokes about platinum. Let's get to the platinum level that doesn't exist yet. But my real answer is we need to keep investing in the trail system. So maintenance is really the way forward. Optimization, improving trails were needed. And then when and where appropriate, let's expand the trail system. When we look at the trail system, you and I live here in Aspen, but I'm forever working with our friends in Carbondale and Glenwood and Newcastle. Yeah. And one of our taglines is, we want the best trails on the planet right at your back door. So luckily, we've got the Rio Grande Trail connecting all of our communities. So the Roaring Fork is one community, the way that I look at it. And you can just head out the back door. You don't have to get into a car. You don't have to jump on the Raft bus system with their bike racks, but you could. So the goal is always to have these great amenities right out where people live. So you can get out there, get after it every day for that health and fitness that we were talking about, for that wellness aspect we were talking about. And so the gold level is a great thing, but my hope is that it gets people appreciating more broadly in our community what we have in the summertime. Not everybody's a mountain biker. Not everybody's even a hiker or a trail user. But if they operate a lodge and they start seeing more mountain bikers coming in the front door all the time, they're going to start to realize, obviously we have a world-class ski area in the wintertime. I didn't realize we had this world-class summertime trail system.
Right.
This is incredible. And so we want to build that support and build that understanding. That's what we're up to.
We've got a really cool clip, thanks to you, on the Gold Level Ride Center. A little more insight, including some awesome riding. So let's check that out next. I mean, we are just so blessed to have the mountain biking, also the road biking. I mean, to be able to spin up the pass like I did today, or Maroon Bells with only bus traffic, amazing scenery. So, I mean, really lucky we've got all the pieces, like you said, the total package for someone to come here and not just ride bikes, but enjoy the restaurants, live music when that returns, you know, all the other amenities that are normally here, you know. And, you know, it's just, as we know, Aspen's got the total package come wintertime, and now it's got the total package come spring, summer, fall.
Indeed.
To recreate and so much more. So just count our blessings that way for sure.
Yep, we live in a beautiful spot. Make the most of it.
And one of the other things, Mike, to get involved in, you had mentioned maintenance of the trails, is something I'm involved in, is RFMBA Trail Agent.
Yeah.
We're like secret agents with like these
secret
kind of like we open our trench coat, except there's like a lopper, you know, another tool here, maybe a small handsaw. You know, and you're like a secret agent that way. Talk about that.
Let's first remind people that, you know, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. There's always volunteer opportunities, and usually they are group opportunities, and they're scheduled in advance.
Right.
But we identified over the years that everybody's busy with work, everybody's busy with life, and then you want to go for a bike ride. And so volunteering at like a particular night or Saturday is low on the list, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So we created this trail agent program. We developed a curriculum with Volunteers Outdoor Colorado called Independent Stewardship for Trails. And that means that you can read through the guidebook, you can come sit with us for an evening for a class, and you become authorized to go out and do that basic trail maintenance. Exactly. You do it safely, you do it properly, you do the reporting of the accomplishments, you report your hours. And so the land managers are happy that all those conditions are met. You're happy because ideally you were on your bike, you brought your portable tool, you got some good work done that benefits everybody who gets to use that trail. So at this point, we've got 70-something trail agents.
Really, that many?
This year, not a great year to get groups together for training like that. So we've trained up a couple extra this summer, but next summer we'll be back. And so if that's something that appeals to you, definitely check out rfmba.org and poke around and watch out for those trainings. Or just find me and call me, email me. We'll try to work it out. But I guess the one thing to remember is that there are trail fairies out there. And I believe that you were a trail fairy at one point, but now you're a trail agent. And so bringing people into the system really helps, especially with that reporting aspect, because we can leverage all of those hours. A volunteer hour in Colorado is valued at $25 an hour. So if you can accumulate 1,000 of those over a summer, that gives us an in-kind amount of $25,000. We can then go and parlay that into real cash, and we can go get grants to match that kind of labor.
Wow.
So volunteer labor is really important. At the same time, I'll throw in a pitch and say that professional labor is equally important. We're finishing up our third summer of having our seasonal trail crew on the ground.
Right.
So these guys and now girls, they put in long days. They're actually usually working 410s. And
that's real work.
They're trained up to use the chainsaws and brush cutters.
Awesome.
Sometimes they're on their bikes getting to the most remote parts of trails. I think one of their biggest days this year was they cleared 60 fallen trees after accessing I think it was 5 or 6 miles from the trailhead where they did all the work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just amazing. That was in Coal Basin. So there's just more and more places for people to explore. And if you're not a map reader yet, I encourage you to become one and go find a trail you haven't been on recently or ever.
So there's so many opportunities. You could do the, like you said, scheduled work crews through RFMBA. RFOV, Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers, also has those kind of group or more social trail days, or get special training as a trail agent. And what I also like, and I didn't have quite as much time, this is definitely an unusual summer, but going on the trails that I enjoy, so having that flexibility going, well, hey, you know, that's great that there's a work crew on Government Trail, but I'd rather work on Sunnyside and during my time frame. I might only have an hour.
Exactly.
And that's what's great about trail agents, because you've got that flexibility on time, you know, scheduling when you want to do that, and your choice of trail.
That's right. Some of it is opportunistic. So certain parts of the season, I'll carry a 15-inch handsaw with me.
Right.
And if I come across a fallen tree, I know that I could probably clear it in 5 minutes, maybe 10 if it's a big one.
Throw it in the pack.
And then throw it back in the pack. Other times you might bring your Cindy loppers, your loppers, and you might be on a mission where you know it's an hour to get to that zone, and maybe you spend half an hour or 2 hours clearing back that corridor growth, making sure that not the tread of the trail, but the corridor, we call it, where the vegetation is,
Right.
making sure that's nice and wide so people can safely pass each other, or my favorite, so people can go faster if they want, so that people are visible to each other on the trail. Yeah, so every little bit of work actually, every little bit helps. It adds up.
Let's talk about, we only got a couple minutes left, Mike, but I want to actually just fundamentally, the benefits of cycling. We're here in this kind of global pandemic, also with local wildfires, and we need to take care of ourselves more than ever, keep ourselves safe, keep ourselves healthy. And thus we see the explosion of cycling. And that's not just in the US, but worldwide. Great Britain has seen something like a 600% increase in cycling.
Wow, yeah.
It's just blowing up. But let's talk a little bit about those benefits, because I know for me, even just getting out for 20 minutes changes my day.
Yeah.
And not just physically, my mental outlook. Can you speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, so the mental aspect is absolutely real. But let's just start with, being active all the time. It literally starts to reduce your visits to the doctor.
Yeah.
It's kind of an apple a day kind of a thought.
No
if you're
doubt.
moving, and bikes make it easy to move, that makes a difference. But thinking about that mental aspect, that's one of the things that can feel harder to calculate, but as you and I know, it makes a world of a difference it just changes your mood. If you find yourself in the middle of an aspen grove,
Exactly.
an aspen grove, a narrow trail, things are already better compared to whatever you were dealing with
Part of
earlier
it's
in
that
day.
nature connection. You just
The
feel
nature
like it's
connection's
nature
amazing,
bathing,
yeah,
as they
yeah.
say in Japan. You're literally
Yeah,
being healed.
when you think about youth cycling, it's pretty impressive to read some of the stats there. So kids who start riding when they're young, they very often develop a lifelong connection to the outdoors. So that even changes them into environmentalists over time. They're going to be the defenders of our planet. They're going to be the ones who help us to address climate change more and more and more, as we obviously need it more and more and more.
And I would imagine those kids are just better behaved. They do better in school. I have a feeling that there's research that would support just across the board, because when you have that positive outlook and that outlet for your energy, and it's like a dog, they just behave so much better when they're exercised and trained. It's not comparing. Well, my dogs are kind of like my kids, but you know what I mean? It's got that aspect too that I think across the board is just healthy for adults, for kids. I've got something that's kind of semi-healthy for you, buddy. I baked some organic, like the organic part's healthy, the chocolate chip cookie part.
I'm excited. That looks like a heavy package there.
There's some parting gifts for you, buddy. I really appreciate your time. I also want to thank you for all you do for local mountain biking.
Oh, it's
up
my
and down the
pleasure.
valley, up to Newcastle now.
I'm the one who gets to work with all the happy people, mostly happy people.
Well, thanks for all you do, Mike. I want to thank Mike Pritchard for joining us on the local show, guys. And thank you for watching us each week here on GrassRoots Community Network.